This episode of the Mosaic Life podcast is brought to you by 2237 Designs. You've heard me talk about it before, whether you're a business owner, entrepreneur, side hustler, or just somebody working internally on your company's web presence. Managing your online presence should be stupid, simple, not just stupid. 2237 Designs offers affordable solutions to getting things done online when you need them, not on some agency's terms. 2237 Designs offers web design and website maintenance, hosting, domain name management, online reputation management, and email support. And getting started is easy, and it's just a text message away. Text 380-201-3300. Again, that's 380-201-3300. That's the new Columbus area code for those not in the know. And let me know you heard about 2237 Designs on the pod. Yes, as a reminder, this is my company, and I will hook you up with a free year of website hosting when you hire 2237 Designs for your web needs. Again, that's 380-201-3300. And just let me know you heard about us, and I'll take care of you. Treat your business to its very own web concierge. Hello, friends. Ernie and I are back again with another conversation this week. And before we get into it, I want to pose a question to you. If you were to meet me in the street and I asked you how you were doing, what would you say? Would you say, I'm doing fine? How are you? Just a quick 2 or 3 second answer. Or would you delve into your life a little bit? Talk about the fact that business isn't going great, or your family is doing fantastic and your kids got straight A's. Or, again, do you default to that I'm doing fine answer? It seems to be a social convention or a social nicety to give somebody a quick answer out of maybe respect for their time, or maybe it's just the same thing as shaking hands. You do it as a formality. And so Ernie and I dig into that a little bit this week, and we talk about why we don't bare our souls when somebody asks how we're doing and we're not doing well, or why we're not brave enough to brag when we're having a great week. And so we talk a lot about that, and we try to figure out, where's the happy medium? How do we find out if somebody's in that space, holds that space for you to listen and to engage in your conversation? I'll also talk a little bit about frustrations that I have with people who wear headphones and try to have conversations with me while wearing those headphones. I don't know. It's a little pet peeve of mine, but we'll get right into it. So without further ado, please enjoy this week's conversation. Be real. Welcome to the Mosaic Life podcast.
Life is an art. Every moment a picture painted in time. The color, texture, lighting, all context. The Mosaic Life vision is to cast a warm glow on your masterpiece, highlighting the struggle while showcasing the culmination of years of hard work.
Join us for guided meditations, interviews with authors and leaders, and engaging conversation as we explore the depths of our consciousness. Man, how's it going, Ernie?
All right. Well, it's good. Welcome to the Mosaic Life podcast.
It's the second conversation in a row that we're starting with laughs and giggles. It's okay though. It's we're figuring out this remote recording thing, and I think it's going well. So.
Yeah. It's going well. I mean, it's working well, and the last conversation turned out great, and we can make it's much more efficient. Yeah. It's all good.
I finally finished that determinism book. It was like 130 pages long, but it took me like 2 weeks to read. It was it's so dense. I don't know, but it was very, very enlightening. Thinking about, just kind of analyzing, whether or not the decisions that I'm making currently are a result of all the decisions I've made in the past, or if it's something that I'm doing, just off the top of my head right now. And everything feeds into it, which it's a very interesting philosophy.
Yeah, I really like dense books, like not all the time. I really like books where I can just kind of flow through it and it just feels really good. And I learn some insightful things. When we're talking, I guess, nonfiction, maybe personal development, business books, whatever. However, I really like dense books too, because I feel like I can chew on a sentence for the whole day,
Good.
Like it might take me a year or 2 years to read this whole book, but you read a sentence and then you really can muse on it for the rest of the day. So
and you should read that book.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you feel that way, or are you just trying to crush through it because you have a goal of 50 books?
Right. No, I wasn't just trying to crush through it. It was literally written like 101 years ago, and just the way that it was written, it's not like I'm reading out loud, but like I'm getting tongue tied in my mind because there's the way the sentences are structured. It was just, it was kind of difficult to get through, but the content, it was very good. And I would actually like to read like a modern take on determinism and free will.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the types of books you kind of have to read out loud. It's like, wait, what? Okay. Yeah. But anyways, man, we came together today in the spirit of conversation, and we actually have a direction that we're looking to go, and I can jump off with a story if we're ready to go there.
Please.
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, I had a really long week, and I think I made it to the gym. I do CrossFit, and so it's kind of like becoming a family for me. Actually, that's exactly what it is. There's a really nice culture to these types of gyms, and but anyways, I try to make it 3 or 4 days a week, and this one week in particular, I maybe made it once or twice, and actually even drove there on Friday and sat in the parking lot. As I got there, I was like, man, I don't know, like just being there was nice, like just being alone, also being like around the energy of that place, what I feel when I'm there was all good, but I didn't want to go in and be around people. And so I sat there for about 5 or 10 minutes and ended up just driving home and then spending some time alone, which was really healthy for me. But the point being was, some people noticed that I was there and then left. And so the next week when I showed up, a couple people asked, we noticed you were here and left. And I just kind of brushed it off like, oh yeah, I was tired and needed to be alone. And then I was, I guess I wasn't intentionally brushing them off because I didn't want to talk about it. But I didn't want to get into it.
Right.
Like in the amount of time it might take to have that conversation of what was actually happening for me. But then I was sitting on a bike, we had a 3-minute workout on the bike. And so we're just kind of cruising along and I'm sitting next to this woman and she says, how was your week last week? And then I thought, this is literally what I said. Oh, it was all right. It was good. And then I pedaled for like 30, maybe 10 seconds. And I looked at her and I said, you know what? I said it was good when you asked me how my week was, but actually it was pretty challenging. It was pretty challenging emotionally. And then we just got in a conversation about what I was dealing with and the experience that I had with the few minutes that we had. But I was able to be honest and I'm realizing, and we were kind of talking about this before we started, how many times I'm more inclined just to not get into things, whether it be time, whether it be I don't want people to know what's going on literally if I answered truthfully or whatever other reason that might seem rational to I guess in a way lie when people say, how are you doing? And just maybe even put on a facade sometimes. Oh, things are fine. I'm happy. The family's good. And then on the other hand, in this moment with this woman, I actually felt much more relieved and a deeper sense of connection with her in that moment, having been more vulnerable with what was actually going on for me.
That's good. That's interesting. I mean, I think it's not really much of a secret that, when somebody asks you in passing how you're doing, they expect you, the expectation there is there that you give a quick 5-second answer. It's a social nicety, I think, to ask how you're doing and then to also respond, briefly. I think if you get into the idea, and you used a term like this when we interviewed Jason, I don't know if you call it radical honesty or what did you call that?
Yeah, radical honesty.
Yeah, well, if you just if you get it deep into the weeds with everybody, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think a lot of people would get turned off by that, and so you have to. I don't know if it's choosing your battles or it's a social convention that I think is stupid. I think it's weird. If you truly want to know how somebody's doing, then be there for them for whatever answer they give.
Yeah, well, I guess that's it kind of gets muddy there. Also, for me, it is, I would say, maybe a social convention. Maybe that's a good way to put it. And it almost seems like conditioning. It's not like I don't care about you, so I'm not going to like entice a real answer or give you a real answer. But it's just kind of pacing, the pace of somebody's day. You're passing by somebody, and then also some people don't know how to hold space like that, and so they don't go there. I don't necessarily think it's an intentional thing by people to not do that. I mean, in some cases it might be like, every time I ask Linda how it's going, she like unloads on me, and by the time we're done, she's in tears. I'm not asking her how she's doing, or I'm going to do it while I'm walking away. I'm sure there might be some of that out there, but for the most part, it feels like people are in such a rush. That seems like a big thing, like myself included. I'm speaking of my own experience, of course. That people are in such a rush, and then also people don't know how to go there sometimes.
Yeah, I generally tend to agree with you there. So, what was your learning experience from that? I mean, next time somebody who you're fairly acquainted with asks you how you're doing, I mean, was that an experience that you want to replicate, whether or not you're having a good or a bad day, or do you conform to that, that societal standard of, just giving a brush off answer because that's what the person is intending to receive?
Well, I definitely have learned in the past year or so that real connection doesn't happen unless you're going there, like what's really happening.
Right.
And sometimes that's I'm doing amazing. Like this just happened, and tomorrow I'm doing this. So I'm really great. And there's real connection there. And, but real connection doesn't really happen in faking it.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a very good point, because, I mean, there's an opposite end of the spectrum. When somebody asks you how you're doing, you don't necessarily want to bear any of your dirty laundry. But at the same time, if you're having a really fucking good week, it almost feels egotistical or self-centered to, talk about how well you're doing. Oh yeah, I just made this, $20,000 sale, and I get $5,000 in commission from that. Like it's such a weird boundary that it's so hard to brush up against it. I don't know. It's
yeah. Well, we're talking about two things now.
Right.
I wonder, being vulnerable about or being open about like the challenges we're facing when somebody asks us how we're doing. So that's one thing, and we can expand, and we might expand more on that in its own capacity, and then talk about also sharing like the truth in our happiness and our joy, and how we sometimes hold that back. Because I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but they seem like two different things. What do you think?
They
like
are
the where they come from, like where the reason we hold back in either seems to be
totally
different.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you completely.
In what ways? So what might be reasons to hold back?
No, I think, it can be very difficult, if you were going to be sharing something personal and, something that's troubling you. One, you don't know if the person to whom you're speaking is, really going to care or hold that, space open for you to, delve into your feelings. And so, you're making yourself vulnerable, and you don't know if that's going to, bite you or not. But, and then on the opposite end of the spectrum, I think if you're holding back, something good that's happened to you, you're doing it because, or at least I would be holding it back because I don't want to feel like I'm, bragging. That seems kind of, taboo, to do. So yeah, there are different rationales for holding back both those things. But I think from the vulnerability standpoint, you don't know if I mean, if this is something you're merely acquainted with, you don't know if they're going to be supportive in, whatever issues it is that you're facing.
Yeah. So when we're talking about this side of things, I guess I'll segment it again just to be clear in my own head. If we're talking about like sharing challenges and frustrations or whatever it might be authentically, when somebody might ask us, how are you doing? There's probably like a gauging process or a feeling into it of like, how well do I know this person? Are they even present to hear this? Is this something I should even share at all? Do we have the time to even get into it? Like, I guess these are some of the questions that come up when you're with somebody, and this gauging process that we might go through when we decide or decide not to share what's actually happening. I don't know. Anything else come up for you?
No, and I'm curious. When you decide to become vulnerable with somebody, I mean, there are certainly different levels of vulnerability. What do you use to gauge how deep you get with somebody? I mean, if you most of us, I would have to say, 9 times out of 10 would, if when asked how you're doing, no matter what feeling you're experiencing, you're gonna say, "Oh, I'm fine." But on that 1 out of every 10 times where you say, "Oh, not having a great week," if the person even pries just a little bit, "Oh, what's wrong?" How deep are you willing to go within that conversation? What are the constraints? Is it a time constraint? Is it a feeling of how close you are with this person constraint, or some people will just open straight up? So I mean, how deep did you go with this woman who was on the bicycle next to you?
Well, in that moment, it wasn't too far. Like I didn't say exactly what had happened. I didn't say exactly what I was experiencing and how I experienced it, but I just also wanted to be more honest than I was being. So I said, actually, it was pretty challenging for these couple of reasons, knowing the time frame that we had. Now, in this gauging process, I guess for me, in general, like in any situation, walking into any situation, whether it's seeing a friend in passing at the store, or being at work with a coworker, or talking to a family member, a few things that I really look for, and also, this goes along the lines of if I'm prepared to show up for somebody in that way. Like if I'm asking somebody, "How are you doing?" and I want them to know that I want to know, these are the things I try to emulate. So these are the things I look for if I'm going to share, and these are the things that I try to emulate. First and foremost, like the body language, and if we're like shoulder to shoulder staring out, into space, maybe that's not the. This is a hard one, because sometimes it's better to have conversations not looking in the eyes. But like, if you see somebody's distracted, right? Maybe their body language is turned towards a computer, and they ask you, "How you doing?" Well, this is not the time for me to unload about the challenge that I'm, facing with my business or with my children or whatever, because you're probably not going to hear me. And so I guess it's just a metric I use to speak to anybody anyways. I try not to talk to people when they're on the computer or on the phone. I want your eyes, I want you to look at me, and I want to know that you're listening and that you're actually feeling me when we're speaking.
Yeah.
So presence, right? That's one big one for me.
Absolutely. This is kind of a tangential aside, or I don't know, complaint might not be the best word, but in regard to getting somebody's attention, I have got my own opinion on this, but will you talk to somebody who has AirPods in their ear? You don't know if they're listening to music, but I don't know. What are your feelings on that?
Yeah, I mean, if I still feel, I guess the practice is you can tell if somebody's paying attention or not. Just in the same way that we can tell if somebody's lying or not. We can feel that, although we might not admit that we're pretty sure that person is lying. And in the same respect, you can definitely feel when somebody's not paying attention to you.
Yeah.
And so I guess
I don't know. To me, it's become a big pet peeve of mine. When people will just keep. I don't know. I don't like seeing those things in people's ears when they're trying to have or when they're attempting to have a conversation. It seems rude to me. But again, that's a personal, thing that I need to get over.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I struggle with at times too. Like if I would do something a certain way, then I sometimes will unconsciously or consciously judge somebody who doesn't do it that way, because it means that whatever I make it mean about them. And I traditionally, if I walk into a store and I'm checking out at the counter, I'll take my earbuds out and set them on the counter.
For sure.
Or if I have my case, I'll put them in the case, just for that moment to be with that person. But I guess I don't think too much about it, although it's very similar to staring at your phone while somebody's trying to talk to you, or staring at a computer or something like that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure this is a maturity thing. As people get older, people realize, what is a little bit kinder, a little bit more accepted, so I'm not shy about mentioning that I work part-time in my climbing gym. And, I noticed, a lot of kids, and I mean kids, 16 to 20 come in, they keep their head down. I try to be as friendly as possible and say, hey, how you doing? A lot of times I just get a grumble, and I'm sure I was like that when I was that age. I don't think it's just Gen Zers, but I mean, it's just, to me, it's just like a level of contempt that you have for somebody who is trying to reach out and trying to be friendly, but you're kind of brushing them off. And I don't know. I don't know. How do you break through that? Do you even try?
Well, yeah, man. The contempt towards the person trying to reach out to you. The way I get through that is I don't see it that way. I see it. I really at this point in my life don't believe that people are inherently malicious, that most people are doing things that they're doing because they believe it's right, or they believe it makes sense, or it protects them in some way, or protects their beliefs in some way. And it's not, it literally has nothing to do with any of us, why another person is doing something a certain way. It really has to do with them, what they're dealing with internally, and what they see the world as, and their beliefs about themselves. So yeah, I guess the way of dealing with that in the first place is not taking it personally. As soon as I take something, like I work sales, man. I sell furniture part-time, and talk about the contempt you feel coming when you have to greet, when you're obligated by by your job to greet a person at the door, and every person coming in a good majority of people coming in that door have a belief about salesmen.
Right.
And the last thing they want is somebody talking to them the moment they walk in the door, and that's literally what I have to do.
Yeah, I get
and
that.
So, and when I take it personally, and when the way they're acting means something about me, there's no connection, there's no presence, because at that very moment, I'm now stuck in my own head. I'm stuck in my own story, and I'm stuck in my beliefs about myself, and I can't actually be fully present for a person, because in my opinion, to be fully present for a person, there's not thought, about how it's supposed to go or what you're supposed to say. It's simply a feeling evolving and coinciding with another person, like or an animal, or a plant for that matter. So yeah, letting go. Of course, this is a practice. I don't do it all the time. There's plenty of things that happen in my life that I make mean about me. And the list that goes on and on, but letting go that these things mean something about me is the first step to really being present with somebody. And honestly, taking that approach in my life has broken that wall down. So when I say, how are you doing? It's not, it doesn't bring the same energy. It brings something different, because there's this unconditional love there, because no matter what that person does, it wouldn't affect me in the way that I view myself or the way that I view them, when I'm really in this practice, when I'm really there, and that brings a different type of energy. And so in some cases, I think people would stop or even look you in the eyes for just a second to like, what is this? What's happening? This guy cares. He wants me to say how I'm doing. So I don't know. That's my long-winded answer to how I start to quote unquote curb that or combat that, I guess.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Now to flip the script back to, the holding back in regard to, you're having a great day or a great week and trying not to sound, I think my word was egotistical or, too self-involved. How do you approach that? I mean, it's a different feeling. You don't, at least again, I speak for myself, when somebody asks how I'm doing and I'm having a great day, what do you do there? I mean, what do you do? I mean, you want to have that honesty, but you don't want to, I don't know if the feeling is you run the risk of, making the other person feel bad because maybe they're not having the best day of their lives and you are. So, how do you kind of do that sensitively?
The first thing that comes to mind is a quote that I'm going to butcher probably, but it's along the lines of you're not serving the world by like dampening your light in order to not hurt other people or bother other people. I want to look up the actual quote for that.
And you will, and we'll put it in the show notes.
Well, I'll look it up actively too, because I know where it is. But this is something that I struggle with too. And actually, I was in the program, the Embodied Men's Leadership Training, and one of the practices that we had was actually called a sacred brag. And so each man had to take time to brag, to celebrate themselves, and the amount of discomfort of all the things we had done in 9 months that was excruciatingly uncomfortable. You could just feel it when people were being asked to brag and being asked to celebrate. So it's something that I imagine a lot of people deal with. And the quote that I was butchering was, "Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you." And I was,
I like that. Who said that?
Well, I thought it was Nelson Mandela. This is the paper I'm getting it from, is from a poem by Marianne Williamson. So I don't know where it came from initially, but I thought it was Nelson Mandela.
Okay. Regardless, that will be in the show notes. I like that practice. I like that practice a lot. In fact, I'm kind of in love with that practice, and I think it would be beneficial, in the various groups that you and I are in together, to celebrate that, because oftentimes the feeling of accomplishment it can be dampened very quickly, because one, a lot of times you feel like the other shoe is going to drop, and if you celebrate too hard, then you're going to fall much harder. And two, just the feelings that others project and portray kind of brings you down. So you're afraid to share your elation with others because you don't want to lose it. You don't want it to be leached out of you by some external force. So I do really, really like that practice. And I want to utilize it somewhere because I think it's very good.
Yeah. And I think it's so important too. And we could talk about why we don't share our successes or our happiness in any given moment. And in its accuracy, like I'm fired up, man. Like,
right.
I got 2 clients last week. My wife and I are having the best relationship that we've ever had. My kids have been like, whatever, and just like giving it all. And we could talk about why we don't do it. But it seems so beneficial when considering the idea that our thoughts and our words create our reality. And I've been dabbling in this idea, and I've been practicing in this, and I've been finding a lot of success in this in terms of having a fulfilling life. And so I full-heartedly abide to this principle. The way that I articulate myself, my life, the things I believe, and the way I think about it, they all will be the creation of my life. And so in respect to that, it almost makes zero sense not to fully extend to everything that I say about how great my life is to the last ounce of joy that I'm feeling about it, in the most articulate way, because I'm literally creating my life. I'm in that moment. And so that's what comes up for me as I consider my want, my lack of willingness sometimes, but the want that I have to express my joy fully when talking to people.
I love it, man. And something you said, something a lot. Our thoughts and words create our, what did you say, perception, or how, I don't remember what you said, but it was very
our reality.
Our reality, yeah.
Our world.
That's very powerful. I like it. And I'm thinking back as you're saying some of this. I I guess I have become careful who I share my elation with, in certain circumstances. And I know I've shared it with you before, as we were developing this podcast, and just get super psyched about certain things that happen. I remember just sending you text messages like, man, we're going to take over the fucking world in 2020. This is going to be huge. It really helps, I think, holster, or I don't know if that's the right word, but build you up. Like if you know you have somebody who you can share that excitement with, and they can help increase it with you. It's a very good feeling.
Yeah, dude. In the same way that it feels really nourishing to be able to share what's not great with somebody, and
right.
They feel you. Like for somebody to hear you and see you and feel you in these places, that's like, I don't know, in this moment, that's literally what the world is like, is this connection, like creating this connection between likenesses, like, we're consciousness, and when we're in a moment and we're sharing our joy, and somebody's expressing their joy of our joy and feeling it and hearing it, or same with our sadness, there's this feeling of connection that I imagine we sometimes, I'll say it for myself rather than making it a generalization, but it's a feeling that we chase, that I've chased. It's a feeling that I've chased, and realize, and it's becoming more clear that the feeling that we feel when we fall in love with somebody, the feeling that we feel when the guy pays for our food in the line, in the drive-through
right.
at Starbucks ahead of us, like, it's this connection. These it's spiritual, man. It's like it's a totally different level, and we're constantly seeking that in all different ways. I don't know where I'm going with that, but the point is, like, the point I'm trying to make, actually, I do know where I'm going with it. The point I'm trying to make is that that's what we're chasing all the time, and we can actually create that with people if we can get out of our own heads enough to be fully present in feeling, in body, in spirit with another person, and share with them whatever is on the table, whether it's my stuff or their stuff or something totally different.
Yeah. You're right. The first thought that comes to my mind as you say that is, it is about who you're around and who you surround yourself with, and finding that group of individuals who that there's a certain safety with sharing the wins and losses with them. And you and I had a conversation offline prior to recording this about something that we're working on together, and it's just, a lot of people struggle to find that connection with certain people. You'll kind of surround yourself with your network of people who you work with, or just people at your gym, for example, but they might not necessarily have that same level of passion, I guess, for lack of a better word, that you do. And so, where do you find that personal connection? I think you and I are both unique in the sense that, we pursue, our passions, our loves, both professionally and personally. And not everybody does that. So, I mean, where is a good recommendation to find that certain type of person who you can have that connection with?
So you're talking about creating a community for yourself of people
right.
that can share with you. Yeah, I guess there are different levels to that. For me, and I'd like to hear your thoughts too. At one point I realized that I was becoming a product of my environment when I was in my early 20s. And I started cutting off certain interactions. I started cutting off certain places as much as possible. And then at some point began seeking people that wanted more, and in a similar fashion that I wanted more, whether it's, and at the time it was more money, more hope for the future, more progress in general. And I stumbled into that myself, but I guess you might, if you're at that place where you're just looking for more hope and you're looking for more like-minded individuals, then dude, there's so many places to go. Meetup.com. There are clubs and all kinds. I mean, you can do a Google search and find gamers. You can find, D&D. You can find young entrepreneurs. You can find divorced, middle-aged women. I don't know, like whatever you feel like you want to connect on a deeper level with somebody about and share experiences with. You can find a group that really is particular to that, even on the internet without stepping out of your house. And then there's a part of me now that's I want to say it feels a bit different, not like in a better way or anything like that, but my ambition of connection is different. It feels like, so it's right now I want to provoke that out of everyone. I know at this point in my life, because of what I've been through and where I've come and what I've seen other people go through and where they've come and my experiences of strangers and family and friends alike, that we all inherently have this gift and this connection to wisdom and truth and presence. We all do at any point. And so now in my life, it's about provoking that out of everyone that I talk to. So everywhere I go, that there can be that person that I can share connection with. And lately my practice has been in tension. I notice tension provokes presence, and learning how to manage that in a healthy way. Not like negative tension, but sometimes negative, but tension in general, it doesn't always have to be negative. There's sexual tension. That's not necessarily negative for people. But there are plenty of types of tension, but being able to manage tension, to provoke tension and manage tension in a healthy way, it brings presence about from people, and then really inspires, a person's deepest truth. And so you can find it if you're at that point where you're like, okay, I know where I'm going, I know what I want, and I just want more connection with everyone, with their with who they are. Then that's I guess my suggestion there, or at least that's where I'm working now. That's my leading edge in terms of relating and connection.
That's good, and I think. I mean, personally, I think that I can see that within you, and some of the things that we're capable of doing and that we are doing, especially in regard to the meditation classes and bringing people together in a sort of mindfulness practice, and it's extremely beneficial to be able to have your belief and value system align with others. And you're absolutely right. I mean, there are so many communities out there online or in person that can help support that. And I do think that's extremely valuable for anyone's happiness, is to have somebody who, I don't know, to you, if it comes to sharing negative feelings with somebody, I personally would rather share that with somebody who I know I'm in alignment with, rather than, and I use this very, very loosely, like a psychiatrist or somebody that, is in essence a stranger, may be supportive, but might not be the exact, type of person you want to divulge information to. What do you think about that? I mean, are you more inclined to feel that connection with somebody that you know you're aligned with, or just some random stranger?
Share that connection, like opening up.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll answer that, and then I want to hear also your response to like how to find that group of people as well, or how to create that for you in your life.
Right.
And I'll say this again, that this is my leading edge right now. So like when I say that, I'm leaning into this and learning as much as I can about it, and failing a lot too. And it's excruciating sometimes. But it all comes down to feeling, man. Like we've probably all had that experience of oversharing, like, walking
Right.
away from something with that vulnerability hangover, as Brene Brown might call it, or that she would call it, and realizing, oh man, I said way too much back there, and I'm
Right.
thinking of a couple experiences where it's just like, oh, I totally read that wrong, and you can just like feel a person wanting to get away so badly from a
Right.
conversation at least when
Oh, I
I'm
know. Me too.
too far in, and I'm like, well, I've already stuck my leg in. I'm just gonna dive in at this point.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, it all comes down to my own presence. And like, am I sharing just because I'm a habitual complainer in this area of my life? I always complain, and like that's why I'm sharing it. Or am I sharing because I sense that this person is here with me right now in this moment, fully with me right here. And I've had moments where I've shared, things with people that aren't maybe even less than acquaintances, because the moment was created where it felt like there was this connection and there was this presence there. I mean, I might overuse those words, but I don't know if there's such a thing as overusing them. It really just comes down to the stage being set for that type of conversation. Whether it was set by the other person, there are plenty of amazing men and women that I've met, and then I can just sense that they really want to be there for me. And then I can open up to them, and I've done it in the
Right.
first conversation with people. And then there's also setting the stage myself, where it's like, we're both there. We're fully felt. Maybe I've said something to take it to another level, or maybe I've asked a question and they've tiptoed into an answer, and then I notice that there's more there. And in my presence of being there with them, I can sense that there's a little bit more there, and I can say, I'm here for you, or whatever comes up in that moment.
You can help tease it out. You can help them, bring everything to the surface.
Totally, yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if there's like a label of a type of person that I could put on it where I would choose, but it's a moment, it's a feeling, it's a connection again. Yeah, for me.
Yeah, I agree.
And to backtrack a little though, I was interested to hear you speak about creating that community for yourself. If somebody's listening and they're like, that's all fine and dandy, but I go to work every day. I don't connect with the people at work. I go home every day. My family's life is really challenging, and I don't have people to connect with in this way, to share what's going on with me, or to celebrate together. How would you incite that in somebody's life? How could somebody bring that about for themselves?
I know I've had the experience where if I haven't been happy with, the community that I've been around, then I've tended to create it for myself, and that's always an option. Whether or not that's, a group of rock climbers, or a group of sports enthusiasts, or just people who are interested in small business or entrepreneurs. There's always going to be a community out there waiting for somebody else to take action. You can be that person who takes action. There's plenty of tools out there to help get your word out, whether or not, as you mentioned, meetup.com, which is actually how Ernie and I met, or there's Reddit is actually a great community as well. There's probably a subreddit for every, medium to large city in America, or of course for any interest that you have there as well. Or even Eventbrite. There are plenty of local and free events that you can register for on there, or create your own. Whatever interests you do have, or passions, explore that. It's very unlikely that you're the one person who likes to, eat Cheetos while wearing elephant slippers, in the park. I don't know why that was the first thing that came to my mind, but I'm sure there are people who do it.
First of all, I saw the slippers under Trey's desk, and they are definitely elephant slippers, so don't try to play that off.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a wide range of people, and there are people that do exactly the same things that you do, whatever that is.
And seriously, I mean, there's a lot of apathy in this world, and that's not necessarily, the worst thing, but people aren't going to, the majority of the people aren't going to take action. So if you are the one who takes action, people will follow you. So, I mean, if you have is a strong interest in one area of your life, just put the word out there that you're looking for others to hang out with, whether or not you make 1 or 2 friends or 15 or 20 friends. I mean, that's a win, and you can all do something awesome together. I was just having a conversation with, our mutual friend Anna last week, and we were talking about some of our various pursuits, and a problem that she and I both struggle with is that everything that we have an interest in, we try to monetize, and that's a problem for me, because sometimes you just want to have interests and passions and hobbies, and not everything has to be a business, and that's something that I struggle with a little bit. And so just getting out there and doing things for the sake of doing them it's a great way to not put too much added pressure on your hobbies or the things that you like to do after work. And so just don't set expectations. Just put the word out there that, hey, I like doing this. I'm going to be here at this time. Feel free to come and join me. And don't be afraid to do things on your own too. I mean, you can lead by example. If you're out in the park, I used to play this. I guess it's an augmented reality game called Ingress. Me and my buddy Brandon used to ride around on our bikes and, capture portals. It's as nerdy as it sounds. But we would meet other people playing that in the real world. It was kind of cool. So, just don't be afraid to put yourself out there, especially if it's by yourself, or if you can get others to do it with you. Just take action. Yeah.
It kind of brings into a really good segue on what we're creating with the meditation class. If you're listening to this and meditation or presence, or maybe it's as simple as saying something like personal development or ambition. I don't know, these things are, if these are mostly if meditation and presence and consciousness is at the forefront of what you care about or want to cultivate within yourself or learn more about. April 16th, Columbus, Ohio, we are holding a meditation, EQUIVITA, yes.
Yep.
We are holding a meditation class, and there will be plenty of time to get to know the people there as well as, of course, getting an opportunity to dive into meditation if you've never done it, or if you've had a practice and are looking for variations of that. It promises to definitely serve the purpose of bringing you back to yourself, on April 16th, being able to, in that moment, that day, in that room.
Absolutely. And the link to register is in the show notes. It is filling up, so make sure you register. It's only $5. But Ernie, we talked about this maybe last conversation. You said you were going to do, you're going to be focusing on breath work. You're going to be, do you want to talk a little bit about, your plan for the class, or how you're going to differ it from, what we've done in the past, or do you want to keep that a secret?
No, I mean, it's no secret, and it's also okay for me to say that it's not fully developed, although I have a few practices that I know I want to bring. But again, if you are looking to get into meditation, or to learn more about it, that this class will not only in the moment, bring you to a place back in yourself that you may not experience much or ever experience, being in a relaxed state, not anxious, not overwhelmed. It'll do that in the moment, but also give you a lot of tools to take with you and set up a framework for you to learn a lot about yourself. So that's what I'll say about it, man. It's going to be I'm really, really stoked for it.
So am I. And the distinction I was trying to make in my mind, whether or not you have meditated before or you never have before, it's a great way to kind of get into the practice. I mean, just because you take a meditation class doesn't mean you can't go off and, meditate on your own, weekly, daily, whatever practice fits in there. Just having an instructor like Ernie to kind of walk you through some of the basics, it's extremely helpful. I mean, I would defer to Ernie on this, but I mean, there's not necessarily a wrong way to find mindfulness, but just focusing on, that presence and your breath work and helping to calm yourself. It's extremely beneficial to have that support system, especially in real life.
Yeah. Not to mention, and I will, I don't even know how to express this fully, but there's something very different that happens, or maybe more expansive that happens when you meditate in a group as compared to doing it alone. The energetics are totally different, and it makes for it sets a framework for even more profound shifts for you, or even more profound insights than just doing a solo meditation. So if you've never been in a group meditation, then I would definitely encourage you to consider it. Actually, no, just go. It's like what, $5 or something?
$5.
Yeah.
$5. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, what else you got? We got some great interviews coming up, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, we have some great interviews coming up. We just launched the talking points, segments. I'm excited about that.
Me too.
As I look to, to document as much as possible. I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk, and lately are you familiar with Gary V?
Oh man, I'm quite familiar. I've
Okay.
got, I wouldn't even say love-hate. It's like a love-dislike relationship with him. I mean, I love the message that he sends. I just feel like if I were to have a conversation with him in person, like he's the type of person that would have, AirPods in his ears. Like you always feel rushed to get everything out. So that's what I don't like about him, but he's got a great message, and he's very, very empowering when it comes to, young entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I would say personally, it's a hit or miss thing for me, only because it sometimes doesn't land because of the pace, like you're saying. But for a while, I was like really, really on it, because for some people, you need this like go, 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 go,
Yeah.
and then go.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But he said something the other day. Actually, it was just a beautiful conversation he had with a man about documenting and legacy. And I always thought he was saying this type of stuff for business, like, document, don't create. Like, document your life instead of trying to create content. And I always saw that from a business sense, but then I heard this man talking to him, and Gary and this man going back and forth about how documenting our life will then be a legacy in time. Like my great grandchildren can be listening to this right now, this exact podcast right now, in the far future. And it could have some impact on their life. So I really like this segment of talks, because it gives us an opportunity to really document our life rather than having to get each other together. Oh,
Yeah.
This is what I was thinking. How should we go about it? Like, what could you say? Where should we go? ... We can just record and
I agree.
and then post it. So it's really exciting to have that. But other than that, man, it's the same stuff we're trying to do to bring the best.
Yeah,
best
and actually
foot forward.
To kind of touch on that a little bit, so that talk that I put out on the first Sunday of March, as I mentioned, I've got a climbing friend who's just getting ready to graduate high school, and I kind of remember that, what am I going to do with my life? And the expectation 17 years ago for me was you have to have it all figured out. You have to go to college and, find your major, and then, get a job, and then, work for the rest of your life. And that was not the life path that I took. I mean, I certainly did graduate. I certainly did go to college. I think I had 3 or 4 majors during my time there. I ended up in communications, which honestly, there's not a whole lot of value in that. I'm going to tell any listeners that right now. There has never been a time when I've been asked to show proof that I graduated college. I mean, there are obviously certain majors that you can get, whether go through, whether it's dentistry or getting your law degree, but the value that I received from going to college was, the social aspect, and, kind of getting a feel for what it was, who I wanted to interact with, kind of the area that I wanted to delve into. And then the education was I hate to say it, secondary, but I've bounced around so many times in my life post-college that I'm finally in a spot where I'm happy, but just don't stress out. Don't stress out about what you're going to do with the rest of your life, because very, very few people can tell you definitively where they're going to be in 5 or 10 years. And that's not a bad thing. It's really not. To me, it's exciting, and I know that stresses some people out, but just, take the opportunities that come about, or make your own. Don't let somebody else tell you this is how it's going to be.
Yeah. What is most purposeful right now for you? And do that. Yeah, that's great, man. I really appreciated you recording that. It's been good. I hope everyone has enjoyed and found some insight that they might use from this that could drive them through their next week, through their next month,
Absolutely.
or even change their life. As always, One Mosaic Life on Instagram, One Mosaic life@gmail.com. These are places that you can connect with us.
Absolutely. And our website's onemosaic.life, where you can subscribe. And of course, it would be hugely beneficial if on your podcast platform of choice, if they allow it, which I think is just Apple and Stitcher, you can rate our podcast. 5 stars would be phenomenal, because that helps other people discover us. And if you genuinely feel like you're getting value out of this podcast and it means something to you, you can click at the bottom of the show notes, support this podcaster. Donating even a few dollars helps us pay for, some of the things that we've got going on, like our meditation classes and other content we're producing. So that is tremendously helpful.
Boom.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Ernie, thank you so much. As always,
buddy.
I appreciate it. I miss you being in the room next to me, staring into my eyes. But, I'm sure we'll do that again soon.
Someday soon, young man.
Someday soon.
All right, brother.
All right, man. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back soon with more of everything. Conversations, interviews, meditations, and talks.
Take care.
Be well. Again, thank you all so much for joining us this week for this conversation. We've got some great interviews coming up. We've got 2 scheduled to record before April. And we're just really, really excited to share this with you. As a reminder, do us a favor, follow us on Instagram at One Mosaic Life. If you have any questions, or if you are interested in learning more about how you could be on the podcast, email onemosaiclife@gmail.com. And of course, visit onemosaic.life to find all of our subscription links. And it would be truly, truly appreciated if you would leave us a 5-star review. That helps others like you find our podcast. So thank you so much for listening. Again, this podcast was brought to you by 2237 Designs. If you're looking to make your online presence stupid simple, not stupid, give 2237 Designs a call, 380-201-3300, or visit 2237designs.com. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful week.